Hello and welcome to Easy Projects. So today we're going to make the extruder for the 3D printer. I already made the hot end part here where the plastic is coming out, but we need something to drive it. For that we need to use a stepper motor and one of these small gears that should grab the filament. I have two different types, a small one and a big one. But actually there's a problem with both of these, but we'll get back to that. Also we'll need something to hold against the filament on the other side. So this would be the actual extruder part. My brother made one of these for me in metal, and if you got a milling machine and want to make one yourself, you can check out his videos. I'll put a link in the description and also one in the video. Else you can also buy one of these in plastic, like the ones that are on the Flashforge printer, on eBay very cheaply. Or you can find them on Thingiverse. If you have a 3D printer, then you can print one yourself. So this one is very nice because it has this spring that you can undo, and you can open this and clean everything in here. That's not very easy with the one on the Megabot, that's all closed up. I just need to put washers on the back side here because this part of the extruder can just reach this bus here on the motor. And I'll of course do that on the other two screws as well. So the problem with these gears here is that they are too small. You can see there's still a millimeter until it can reach the filament. So if we try and push it in with this one, it takes a lot of force for it actually to grip the filament. This is an 11mm gear, but if we could get a 13mm gear, I think that would fit better. And the other one that I have is even smaller than this. So I just checked online, and the 13mm ones are actually much more expensive than these 11mm. So what I thought we could do instead is to clamp this up in the vise in the milling machine, and then widen these holes and make them a little wider this way so that we can push this down a little bit. There's still enough room in here so we can move it down that millimeter that we need. That way I can get it working today and I don't have to spend money on another gear. I could of course also print one out in plastic, but I would rather like to use this one. And then when a lot of plastic have been ground off in here, we can just disengage that, clean it all out and blow it out here, and then we can just put it back together again. We will also need the Teflon tube and one of these fittings that I showed earlier to fit the tube into. And that will just go in the bottom of the extruder like this. But first we'll have to mill these a little bit. And I have a 3mm end mill here that we can use. It reaches through here on these four, but on the back side here I'll have to do it halfway from both sides. So we'll use a couple of parallels, maybe the shorter ones. Yep, that'll be better. And we just make sure there's not too much crap underneath. Okay, there it goes into the hole. And we'll just go full speed on this little one here. So I just realized I should probably make the holes 4mm instead, because if they're not entirely precise, then I get a problem when I have to screw it into the motor. We are a little close to the edges here, but we'll put washers on anyway, so. And don't look at that one. I was moving to this hole a little too quickly, and I didn't raise it all the way up. So we'll put a washer on each screw, and then we'll very carefully place those. Then we can drop the screws in. And then we should be able to line them up. And now I can move it a little bit, but it will hit this one right here. Oops. Like that. I'll try and see if this is okay, else I'll just have to either file or mill a little bit off that corner down there. So I couldn't move it enough, so I just went and chopped off the corners down there, as you see. So now I can adjust it from where we had it before, where that's like 1mm to the filament. I can also pull it back, so now the filament is curving a little bit. And I think this might actually be where it should be. It might not be as easy to get the filament through without opening the extruder then, but I think I can live with that if it grabs into the filament really good. So I think I'll tighten it down here, and then we can get moving. So now, even without tightening the spring very much, you can see the stepper motor is spinning also. It slips a little bit, but again, the spring is not tight. And this is a very loose spring. I might also have to change that. But if we just tighten it down a little bit, then it doesn't slip anymore. You might be able to see these teeth have flat tops, and they're not actually that grippy compared to the ones in the Flashforge and the old style Megabot. On these ones, the teeth are very sharp and they grip into the plastic much better. Those other chrome ones that are on the newer Megabots, I don't know if they changed them on the newest models, but on the 2X and around that age, where they only had that, they had a groove with teeth, they were not very good either. In my opinion, these are the best you can possibly get. So now we're actually done with this part. Now we just need to attach it to the printer. And I thought about making a bracket that these two screws could fit into, and then it could be screwed into the case like this. So just an angle bracket like the one we use over there, just not as fancy. But I then thought it would be a pain to get the extruder on and off the printer. But I think I'll stick with that idea anyway, and then just make these holes open so that I can slide the motor out of the bracket. So I can just loosen the screws a little bit and they will slide out of the bolts. It doesn't really need to be that strong, so I think we can do it that way. So I think I'll try a piece of polycarbonate instead. I should be able to heat it a little bit and then just bend it. I think that was enough. Except that it started boiling a little bit over here. It worked out pretty good. So I'll just mark where the screws are, the center, and then I'll go and use the milling machine to make a little slot into this so we can screw it onto there. Yeah, it sorta kinda works, but the plate here is not wide enough. I have more of this, but this was pre-cut already, so I just used that. I'll maybe make a new one later on, but this holds it in, so I'll just have to make a few holes here, and then we're done with that. I should probably make a new one later, also so I can get this a little bit longer, because the screws kinda doesn't have much to grip into. So there is actually enough space for a spool to sit on the inside of the printer, but I'm just worried that if I do that, then the filament guide tube has to come up here, and it has to go down again right here. So it'll be a very sharp bend in the top. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, so I think I'll put it outside the printer. And I think I'll put it on the side instead of on the back. That way it would be easier to access. So I was thinking somewhere around there. If I put the spool right here, then I can put the extruder here. And if I ever choose to make a dual extrusion, I can put the other spool on the other side, and I can have the other extruder in the middle also. So if I put the extruder somewhere around here, or maybe a little further down, Perhaps a flat screwdriver would be better. Where did I put that? So hopefully this will take some of the vibration. I could even put some of the double-sided foam tape in between here and then just not tighten the screws so much. Now it's just a matter of how long we should make this guide tube. We need at least so it can make a soft curve over to here. It has to be at least like this, or maybe a little bit more. Then when it goes like this, it's still fine. Yeah, so I think we'll try here. So perhaps this bracket wasn't the best idea in the world. Yeah, this bracket is not going to work. The part that grips the motor here has to be at least half a centimeter longer. So I just designed a very simple filament holder in Adobe Illustrator, and now we will cut it using the laser cutter. I'm cutting this from 5mm acrylic, and this piece is supposed to go into this hole, and then these spacers should go underneath here, and then I can screw it into, imagine the printer is over here, and I can screw a screw into it this way, and that will hopefully be strong enough. So I'll just move the machine into position. I almost got it, but we just need a little bit more. And then we will be cutting at 5mm per second. That looks good. Yes, so I think we are ready to go. I'll see if I can get a good shot of it cutting. People usually like to watch that. Then we go. I don't know why it was cutting those holes twice, but at least it should be through now. It's not really that fast in 5mm, but once you go to 3 or 2mm, you can cut reasonably fast. So that's it. So let's see if the puzzle will fit together. So this should go in here, and then one of each of these, like that. And this is just under, oops, the camera's not focusing. And you can see this one is just under this one here. I don't know, maybe this will be a little bit loose. I could just put a piece of tape on here so it won't wiggle. So I'm thinking that somewhere around here should be a good place to put it. That puts the center of the extruder here kinda in the middle of where the filament would have been. And it also allows for bigger spools. I have some that are a little bit bigger. So I just countersunk the holes in the acrylic a little bit so the screws get a little bit more to grab into. Well, I think I gave it plenty clearance. It works, but I could make the tolerances a little bit tighter. And one of the bigger spools. Well, it didn't break. But it does kind of move outwards because it's sagging a little bit. Well, I'll make a new one if it gets a problem. Like you haven't heard that before. So now we just need to install the thermistor and the heating element, and then I think we're ready to make a test print, actually. Maybe I should tighten these or put some nuts on here also before we start printing. I also wonder how long it's going to take me to break that one off. But let's see. So installing the heating element should be fairly easy. I won't put the silicone on there yet because I'll probably make a new one. Didn't I put a set screw in there? Nope. Then I'll have to get one. And to extend the cable from the heater, I have some of this very soft silicone cable. So I think I'll use this. So I just tied these together with heat shrink because these thermistors are not very robust, so if you accidentally pull one wire you can rip it off the tip there. So now we can plug in the extruder. And we can screw in the heater. So I just zip tied the thermistor onto the filament guide tube for now. Of course we'll have to put all the wires and the tube inside the braided sleeving when we're done, but until I know that everything works I'll just leave it a bit loose. Then we take some of this high temperature silicone and so now that's kinda in place. This will cure much faster if you heat it up a little bit, the hot end. I don't know if you're really supposed to do that, but it cures just fine if you do. But in order for us to do that, I need to put a jumper link across the input terminals at the ramps board. I forgot to do that. There's two inputs where one powers the ramps itself and the Arduino, and the other powers all the heaters. But the HP power supply should be capable of delivering enough current for both. So, and it still turns on. It's saying 17 degrees. The watch up there is saying 18, so it's fairly close. Can we prepare and preheat PLA? Let's see if it's doing anything. Yeah, it's heating. Something seems to be working. So I'm not planning to taking it to 200 right away. I'll just stop here at 100. If I can. How do I do that? Not that way. Cool down. We should also install an extruder fan at some point in time, but I think I'll make the other extruder that I explained in one of the previous videos first. I'll make a test print with this one, just a short one, and see if it works. So it's only been a couple of minutes and the silicone is already dry enough that it doesn't stick if you touch it. So I'll just zip tie up the heater wire also and the end stop, and then I think we are almost ready for a test print after we have calibrated everything, of course. So it looks like this really want to tip over, so I'm thinking that I could put a length of welding wire along this, and that would hopefully keep it upright. That's the idea anyway. Yeah, that seems to work. If I fasten that right here. I just need a couple more zip ties. And I totally left this one out on purpose. Yeah, it's gonna look a lot nicer when we get the braided sleeve on here. I hope this heater cable doesn't mess too much with the rest of the signals, but we'll see. So this is not going to be a permanent solution either. I'll need to get one of those cable chains. So I got tired of having the end stop in the bottom, because every time I wanted to move the Z-axis up, it kinda got stuck on the way and started moving in very little increments, like a tenth of a millimeter. And it would just stay there, doot 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 doot, and there's nothing you can do to get out of that. It might be something I did wrong in the software, but I can't really seem to figure it out. So now I'll just put it in the top instead, and that way I don't have to move it up and down all the time. As you can see, I kinda improvised there a little bit with a piece of acrylic with some double-sided tape, and now I'll just have to move this up to the top, and then I can attach the end stop up here somewhere. I will screw the plate all the way down, and then I'll move it up until it almost touches the nozzle, and then I can bring the plate up so that it will be in the correct distance. I don't know why it's doing that, but hopefully I can fix it by moving the end stop to the top so I don't have to move it all the time. So I just moved the plate up, as I said, so it's almost touching. There's like 1 millimeter up to the nozzle, and then I put the end switch in and I pushed it down so that it is active. Then I'll have to change it in the software so that it knows the end stop is in the top, and I'll have to move the header for the end stop to the top end stop. So I changed the configuration in the software. Let's see if it will home. It's funny, now it's doing the X and Y axis first. But at least it seems to be working now. So, I don't know what you say, should we try and load some filament and see what will happen? I also went and cut out a new piece of acrylic for this. Definitely not because I kicked the other one off. Well, so it seems all the axes actually do that. Well, let's go ahead and preheat for ABS. Oh, I meant PLA if I said ABS, by the way. So now we should be able to move the extruder pretty soon. So let's see if it will squeeze out of the end. Well, there's nothing yet. The filament was slipping, so that could maybe be why. Well, let's heat it a little bit more and see if that helps. I did use ABS last time, so maybe the 180 degrees wasn't enough to melt that. Nope, maybe it have got stuck somewhere in there. Well, let me try and do that by hand instead, because the rest of the extruder is getting pretty hot, and since the PLA melts at a low temperature, that could be a problem if it starts to melt before it reaches the end of the nozzle. So now I'll just try and heat it up again and then feed it in by hand. The problem could be that last time I tried it, after it cooled down, the ABS solidified up in this part up here, and it will take some time before that can melt again. I'll just let it heat up a few more minutes and then try and put some PLA in there again. Okay, so this extruder is not quite working. The problem seems to be that something has gotten into the nozzle and is blocking it. So it wasn't because of solidified plastic up here, because when I put the filament in, it goes all the way down here, and it also starts melting, but it cannot force whatever is in there out of the nozzle. I think I'll just go and make the other one that I talked about right now, because I could maybe get this working, but it will always be a problem with the heat. And if I'm going to print with PLA, we can't have that, because if it gets soft in this part up here, then it will just crumble together and clog up. So we have to fix that before we can print with PLA. Anyway, I also got one of these 1.75mm Teflon tubes left over as a spare part for the flash forge. I'm thinking that I'll put this inside the extruder all the way down to the nozzle. This will be a better insulator than the bare metal, and thereby keeping the heat away from the PLA until it reaches the tip of the nozzle. That will also hollow out this bolt even more, so there's less material to transfer the heat from this part to this part. Then I'll make some fins in this, so it can act like a heat sink, and I can screw a small fan into there. And then I hope that will keep it cool. And voila! Through the magic of television, we have a new and hopefully better extruder. If you want to see how I made this one, I have already made a video of that. Let's get this one installed and see if it works. So I just hooked the power supply up directly to the fans there, so they are spinning now. Before I load the filament in, I'll try and set it to preheat, so we can see if the new extruder will keep cool. And that way the silicone for the thermistor can also set and cure a little bit before we start moving the head around. So the printer is up to temperature now, and the upper part of the extruder is still as cold as it have always been. I'll just let it stay like this for 10 minutes and then I'll come back and see. So it's been like 10 minutes now and the extruder is still very cold. It actually feels cold when you put your finger on it. So it's definitely doing its job. I could probably do with one fan, but I don't know. I think it looks better with two on there. I tried to turn the hot end a little bit and it seems it got a little bit loose when the extruder heated up, so I just tightened it. Well, I guess now we should try and load the filament. And what do you know? It's extruding. And the extruder is still very cold. So now I think we are finally ready for a test print. But I think this video has been long enough already, so I'll put the test print in another video. But I will upload it straight after this one, so we won't have to wait. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and if you liked it, please give it the thumbs up on YouTube. And of course you are welcome to leave your comments. So, I hope to see you in the next video. See ya!